Well, hi all, Game Methuselah again. We're doing another live video here on our Enlightened game, and we wanted to show you how to start characters. Now, we're going to start what we normally do, which is a 100-point character. That's kind of standard. We'll show you some 150s. Sometimes we go to 200. Kind of depends on the level of the players and where they want to start. Now, I've seen some players, and we've done this, have started with like 0 experience points. That makes them like 12-year-olds out there with a wooden sword and a trash can lid, and well, their life expectancy isn't always long, but it is fun. And it might be a way you want to start. But I thought tonight we'll go ahead and do what we normally do, and this is a 100-point character. We're starting with a warrior because actually he works out the best at 100 points. The others somehow are sometimes missing stuff, others work, but the warrior is usually something that everybody starts with. So I'm going to let Steve go ahead and run you through. He's got one of our handmade character sheets here, and he's looking at the online PDF on how you generate your character so he can run you through the particulars, and I will turn it over to him. So here is our little fighter. He's put all his money into buying himself an actual sword, and then he found a window shingle or something made for a wooden shield, and his mom made him a set of leather armor that he can run with. And he's going to go out with just about what he has, because he doesn't have a whole lot of economy, because the Celts were pretty poor. But this will go ahead, and I'll let Steve show you through how we'll go ahead and generate a character. Onward and outward, Steve.
So on page 14 of the PDF, you'll see Fighter. Become a fighter if you want to be a frontline hero. Fighter will have a nice combination of damage dealing and protection. So the fighter requirements are 7 physical, 7 coordination. So we have to at least see if we can get 2 upgrade on the physical, 2 upgrade on the coordination, so we could have a 7 physical fighter, 7 coordination.
I should interfere real just one quick. If you have not read it, everybody starts with 5 in the first 3 statistics. So you can be pretty weak, and everything gets modified from there.
And so if you did have 5, we calculate what's called a target score by subtracting your score from 18. So if your physical is 5, 18 minus 5 would be 13. You basically would need a 13 on your dice in order to succeed with a physical type challenge. So our fighter is going to have 7 physical, which 18 minus 7 is 11, and 7 coordination, 18 minus 7 is 11, and then his mental is going to stay at 5. So 18 minus 5 is 13. So anything he needs to succeed at in the physical category, he needs 11. Coordination 11, mental 13. So he's a fighter. We're starting, like Jim said, with 100 points of progression. And we just spent, if I spin down to my stat chart, and I'll get the page number. Our stat chart is on page 35. In order to get from a 5 to a 7, it's going to cost us 30 points of progression. So 30 points for physical, 30 for coordination. That is a total of 60 points. Now, of course, to get your class package, they all cost 30 points of progression for your first choice. If you ever get a second class package, they are 100 progression points. So, fighters 30, with a physical of 30, coordination 30. We've spent 90 points of our 100. I know a lot of our players are a fan of picking up what's called a starting occupation. Those are on page 12. And what kind of starting occupation should we have for our fighter, Jim?
Well, if it was me, I always like to pick lumberjack, because that gives him the advantage with a big 2-handed axe to do a little more damage. So if you have to fight something big and whatever, he uses a shield, so it might not be a good one. But there's a lot, and it's really up to you and how you envision your character. So at this point, I don't know, what do you have, like healer maybe, or herbologist? I like herbologist too, because that allows him eventually down the road to have a chance at making little healing potions and little things that might help out in the battle, which is not bad to have someone to do a little extra healing in case the cleric catches a hit. So something like that would be more likely where I would look at.
All right, so let's take a fighter and an herbalist. Herbalist.
Plus I'm into natural health, So, but
That's
don't
right.
tell anybody because
But that's, he learned it from his mom, the fighter. So that gives us 30, 30, 30, and 10. That's our 100 progression points. We've spent 100. We have 0 left. So hopefully as we adventure, our game master's generous enough to give us some points of progression.
Oh no, you got to be stingy.
Based on what we've done. So that's it. We're going to calculate our target scores. We've done that already for physical, coordination, and mental. Our next fill-in score will be defense. Now defense, we're going to add our mental score, which is 5, to our coordination score, which is 7. 7 and 5 is 12. We're dividing it by 2 to get 6, and we're subtracting our encumbrance. Our fighter is wearing, did we say leather?
Yep.
So that's
1.
That's 1. So encumbrance of 1 for the leather.
Well, the encumbrance for 1, I think it stops 1.
Actually,
But
it stops 1,
Yeah.
absorption of 1, but the encumbrance is 0.
0, yeah.
So he's not going to lose anything on his defense for being weighed down with his armor. So his defense score is 6. 18 minus 6 is 12. Anytime he needs to defend with what we call a basic defense, he's going to need to roll a 12 on his 2d9. So here's our d9. Now when our fighter is in his lane, which means he's attacking in melee, he gets what we call in this game a die of ease.
Did he get any additional skills to acquire on the fighter skill?
Oh yeah, let's put those down. Good question. Our fighter starts with adventuring talent, and we could put it over here, which is acrobatics. He has a role-playing talent of leader, and I'll explain what these do, and a combat talent of share the pain, STP. Bonus talent is charge. All right, his acrobatics, he's going to roll with ease, which is an extra die, drop the lowest, anytime he's attempting an acrobatic type action. Also, the fighter, in the opening salvo on page 14, states that if a fighter acts attacking in melee, he gets 1 die of ease as well. So if he's going to attack with his sword, he's going to roll 3, drop the lowest, and in this case, I rolled terribly. He would have missed. But that's what ease does in our game. Other side of the coin, if you're doing something with 1 degree of difficulty, you roll 3, drop the best. So in this case, it would be a 7, which might succeed. Unlikely though. The leadership talent states to roll with ease for a greater chance to win others to join your cause. So you could get other people in the village or other NPCs that might want to join the party. He has some type of leadership charisma, if you will. Share the pain is extra damage dealt can be used on adjacent foes. If he's surrounded, he does, say, 8 points of damage. Maybe the creature can only absorb 4. That extra 4 goes to an adjacent foe. So that's the fighter's combat talent. And the last talent the fighter gets is charge. He's able to move up to 6 spaces and still make an attack. Most fighters and characters in this game can only move 4 spaces and do an action. You can always move up to 8, but you don't always get an action if you're dashing or moving more than 4 spaces.
You also mentioned the leader skill. We were talking about the fact that in the game, the way it sets, unless the creatures have like a special leadership ability, the battle in the combats always go to the players make their actions, and then after all the players have taken their actions in a round, it then goes to the creatures. Now the creatures can have a superior leadership or whatever, but does the leadership ability also count like that for the party?
Yes.
That's how the party is guaranteed. Now, if he doesn't have the leadership ability, would that still, if there was no fighter in the game, would it mean that the monsters would attack first?
If the level of the creatures, and creatures are categorized by level, if their level is the same level as the player characters, the player characters get the initiative, if you will. So they would be acting first and defending second. If the creatures are a higher level than the player characters, the players will be defending first and then acting second.
So it's important to have a basic fighter in a basic game if you don't want to have to essentially be risking defending first.
Right.
Because that means the monsters take all their actions, attacks, and then after you guys, if you're still breathing, get to attack back. Whereas normally the players get to attack back because if you have a fighter, he has leadership. Now there's levels of leadership, there's advancements and things. So obviously you run into a dragon, you might be seeing what, leadership 5 or leadership 6 or something, where there would be a real enhancement and very difficult for you to keep up.
And
Sorry to interrupt, but I wanted to.
No interruption at all. And you'll be excited to know that the creature creation in this game is extremely custom. So you can make these creatures exactly how you want them, like Jim said, with extra leadership abilities, extra armor, maybe natural scale armor, whatever the creature is. It's really an unlimited custom part of this game.
We'll be doing that in another video to show you how to do all that.
Okay, so we have the fighter's talents down. We've pretty much taken care of everything on page 14. I'm going to go down to page 34, and this section was actually encouraged to us by one of our playtesters, Richard, which is really nice because he wanted something on one page that explained in detail how to create the character sheet. So you'll see 14 bullet points there. It does state in the first one the 3 stats have a base value of 5, like Jim mentioned, and we're spending these points of progression to put upgrades. That's how we got 7 for the physical, 7 for the coordination, and we spent 10 pop for the herbalist, 30 for the fighter, and as I work my way down, I think we're already on item number 7, calculating the character's defense. We actually took care of that. It's a score of 6, which gives him a target of 12. It's important in this game, and it can be a little confusing until you grasp. The scores are one thing, and then I've highlighted it as a red circle. You might be able to see over here. The targets. So the target is what you're needing to roll on the dice. I think it's a much cleaner way than doing THAC0, basically.
If you ever played D&D
Yes.
first edition, you know THAC0 was a very interesting way to
It's
play.
our own take on THAC0, which I think is a little more clean, giving you a target score. So all the target scores are 18 minus the score. We have that. I'm on number 9 already. You want to say something, Jim?
I was just waiting for the hit points.
Oh, hit points. Yeah, we're getting to hit points. Well, offensive tier is calculated by adding your physical score to your coordination score, then consulting the chart on page, I wrote 43, I believe that's correct. Because you need to know what your offensive tier is so you can get bonus damage on your attack. This fighter, if you add his physical and his coordination, is 14. And then based on the chart, oh, it's actually on page 35, so I need to fix that. The chart 14 is a bonus damage of 3, and he gets to use tier 2 weapons. So if he's using a ranged weapon, he's going to get +2 to his overroll, and I'll get to that in a second. If he's using a melee weapon, he's adding +5 to the overroll. When the fighter attacks and he's in his lane, he's going to roll 3, drop the lowest. In this case, it's a 10. He missed by 1. Let's say it was a 13. He would have succeeded by 2, which is 2 damage, plus the weapon he's using. So if it's a range, it would be 4 damage. If it's melee, it would be 7 damage.
Right. And one is indicating because the one item is the size of the weapon. How big of a sword is he carrying? How strong is he able to carry? How large of a weapon? The other is a matter of strength directly. When he's in melee, when he hits something, it's just how hard does he hit? Doesn't matter how big the sword is or how sharp it is or how big the axe is. So, you know, like you might get little gnomes that are going to have very low numbers based upon the fact that they're carrying essentially tiny weapons and everything like that. Now, that does come into a situation where you can do that as a game master. We've done it before where you might get stuck with a weapon that has a strength modifier of 2. And, you know, we've seen this with like gnome hammers and stuff, but they're magical, so you want to carry them. And they have their benefits for being that. But they're never going to get better. You're going to be stuck on that. But this is a situation that he has a weapon that is made for him, so it is essentially cooked in strength. There's always some discussion on these numbers and how they go because the things are variable. But again, this is what we wanted to show you, how the basics thing is going and how we are at the state of the art with the game now. If you've seen some of the earlier editions, some of the chart numbers might have been different. Things are always in flux, and that's why there's like 7 editions of D&D, because, you find that things are, work one way, and then you start playing them, and then you find out they're maybe a little too weak or a little too strong, and that's when their modifications to the rules are. And we've been victim of that as well. So you'll likely see different changes and things like that in the future. But we wanted to get you going and running, and this is the best way. So keep going, Steve. I don't want to keep...
Yeah, no, what's interesting about that, too, is what I really love about the custom, and when you're on the Game Master side, you're custom designing the creatures, the NPCs, the traps, the environment. Oh, the ground starts to shake, there's an earthquake going on. What's nice about it is if you do find that at your table your players' characters may be a little bit more powerful than is what you're looking for, you can just tweak your creature creation a little bit, because it's custom. And for example, this creature might have some thicker armor on, or maybe a little harder to hit because he's agile. So it's really nice to run tweaks like that, which a lot of you homebrew your stuff already. So I could be speaking to the choir here. The health is number 10. Your health is 2 times the physical score, which in this case would be 2 times 7 is 14, plus half your mental score, rounded up. Everything's rounded up in this game. So his mental score is 5. We're going to round up half of that, 2.5 to 3. So we have 14 plus 3. This guy's maximum health is 17. And that's where we have, and we love to use these mini D6s. And we'll make sure he has 17 in here. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 17. Too many. So this is his health. That way, when he takes damage down the line, and
or destroys the dungeon,
or he comes out of this where he's been hit this many times, and the priest comes up and says, "Okay, let me see if I can heal you," and then he's going to roll these, and based on the tier of your priest, or it could be anybody, is what you get back. So let's say he gets 4, 5s, and 6s back now. There they go. He's getting this health back right now. The 2s and 3s go to a long rest, which a lot of you know how that works, but the 1 goes to off-season. So that goes back in the bag, and they...
Explain how that's a pretty high-level priest that you just did, too.
Yeah,
because a lot of times
he
it's
ran
1 or
back
2.
to town and had a lot high-level priest, yeah. And by the way, if your guard is healing with no business healing, you might only get the 6s back, 4 5s at a long rest, and the 1 2s and 3s to an off season, because you've got broken bones and this guard has no business healing you.
Yeah, he was putting you back together with some sewing thread he used for his leather armor. So, yeah.
Right.
But, it's interesting. And we'll get into things, obviously. What I love is the fact that there's so many variable things. Like the priest can appeal for divine intervention on the healings. There's so many things that have been done that are different. And that's how based on doing the enlightenments, because you suddenly get enlightenments on these, and you can have some pretty decent healers. He has an advantage because instead of taking his other things, he took herbologist, and herbologists have an enhanced healing ability. So if he was actually healing, and because there was no cleric around or anything of better skill, he would have a better than just the straight old level 1. He has a level 2 heal, which is terrible, but a better survivability than having somebody's dog trying to lick the wound clean.
And if you look on page 12 under herbologist, we've decided that currently it just gives you the simple definition of it. So this guy has experience prior to his adventuring career with herbs. So maybe at your table you want to say this guy can collect things in the adventuring world to help his team with, like Jim said, a 1 tier up of healing. Or maybe he has his own ideas of what herbs mean to him. Maybe he can enlighten his mind, or who knows what could happen.
Make potions of
that's right.
So
we're
poison.
Trying to keep it as custom as possible so that at your table you can have your own twist on that. And that's really it for character creation. One of the things that I have, and if you'll read in the PDF when you get it, is 13 and 14, where it talks about talking to your game master in the setting as to what type of armor and weapons are appropriate. You might be in an age where some types of weapons aren't even a thing yet.
Yeah, I mean, we're basically setting this up in sort of the 300 BC, Ireland, England situation. So you're looking mostly at Celtic people, and who are sort of under the thumb of the Fomorians and the elves. If I will put up more information if you've already looked it up to see the old Albion game, which a lot of my inspiration was drawn from when we played this back in the day. I was really hoping to get the author of the game involved in this and giving us background, but unfortunately he had a very untimely passing, which is disappointing to me. Or hopefully maybe the elves came and got him and took him to someplace magical, which would be better. But anyway, this is how you generate characters. We're going to be doing other things down the road to keep you going. So as long as you're watching and working on it, we'll be working on getting you how to do this game. Have a good one. We'll talk to you soon. Anything else?